It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
All right. What's going on, everybody? It is Friday night, May 10th, 2024. Welcome to your latest sit down. I want to thank you all. For those, whether your moms are still on this earth or they are up above looking down, a very happy Mother's Day to each and every one of the moms out there. A lot of you that know me personally know that my mother is currently in the hospital. Yesterday, she had surgery for breast cancer. She had breast cancer in 1998. They did a mastectomy, a hysterectomy. She was cancer-free. It came back. They think they caught it early enough. The only thing that kind of sucks is she was supposed to go home today from the hospital. In fact, there was a possibility I wasn't going to be doing the show tonight. I was going to be visiting my mom, but they are keeping her for at least another day, possibly more, because her blood work, something came back very, very low. White blood cell. I don't know what it is, but they said that she cannot be released from the hospital. So tomorrow, if everything goes good, she will be home, and I will be celebrating Mother's Day with my mom on Sunday. And I want to thank everybody who reached out. Very, very appreciative. So, I hate to open up also with this. And I got to be honest with you, I kind of feel a little guilty that this man had to actually super chat this. But Umar, everybody here, our thoughts and prayers to you as well. His dad passed away this past Monday. And, he just wanted to thank myself and Kev Castle for everything that we do. I guess the shows are an escape for him right now, especially under these circumstances. So, I don't know the circumstances around the passing of your dad. I don't know if it was sudden, if it was expected, if he had a health condition, but no matter what, he's at peace. And I know it sounds kind of cliche and, trust me, if one of my loved ones right now passed and somebody said to me, at least he or she are at peace, I would be honest and say, no, fuck you, man. I'd rather have them here right now. So, my thoughts are with you, brother. And even if we have a little bit of casual convo about wrestling, just to get your mind off of the everyday bullshit, not just passing of a family member, a loved one, but just everyday bullshit. That I know Kevin and I are doing our job. I have said this many times before. I've been doing this since 1997. And to have so many people still support what I do, and Kev and I are now in our 20th year together. Too bad we didn't do 20 consecutive years together, but we are in our 20th year, and the fact that everybody supports us the way you do it is very much appreciated. Right now with Kevin and I back, we're taking baby steps as we grow. You can't just go full blown, right in your face, after a multiple year hiatus. We take baby steps. In a matter of no time, we will be right back at the top of that list. Some countries already are putting DTKC above even your Hall of Famers out there that are doing podcasting and hustling. So in a matter of time. So much love, everybody. I am here for the sit down, and basically what we do on Friday nights is the floor is open. Whatever you want to talk about, that is what we talk about. You have to be live, obviously, if you want to dictate what we are discussing this evening. This is not a SmackDown recap show. This is not a Rampage recap show, although we do comment a little bit about SmackDown because it just went off the air. And I do have a few things to say, and I'll get into that now. We'll segue a little bit into I don't want to call it Wyatt family. I mean, are we going to be honest about it, or are we going to fantasize? At some point, you got to replace fantasy with reality and what the faction actually is. And I think that's why Kev and I nailed it on Monday. And the feedback has been immense. Kev even told me, he says, I can't believe how many DMs he's getting about our conversation on Monday. So we will elaborate on that a little bit more. And if you did not tune into our Monday show, we'll get into a few things here today. But, there was another teaser today on SmackDown that I definitely want to discuss. A little Sister Abigail tease. Although it's probably not Sister Abigail, it's going to be a hybrid of it. So we'll talk about that. If you look at the thumbnail for today's show, you have an idea of where this is going. I see that somebody sent me a super shout out about the Wyatt 6, as we're calling it for now. One thing I don't disagree with you with, the other one I do, to be honest with you. We'll get into that a little bit. Then we'll get into your questions. Then we'll call it an evening. Mark it down. I believe it's June 2nd. Kev Castle and I will be doing a special episode on a Sunday night right here on YouTube. It's going to be another Q&A, and we're also celebrating his birthday. I think Kev will be 56. So we will be celebrating his birthday, and, he does accept birthday gifts. So I'm not joking, but, we're just having fun. One thing I wanted to tell you all, and listen, this is computer talk, and trust me, you definitely want to hear this. Believe me when I tell you, I think each and every one of you out there should download this program. I mentioned it on Patreon Tuesday, and I got a lot of feedback, people thanking me. Just want to briefly discuss something here. I have 3 hard drives in this computer where I do these shows. I have an SSD, an NVMe, and a regular traditional 3.5 hard drive, the one that spins and all that shit. Well, I use that hard drive for all of my archive of the shows, also the templates for the video, things like that. It's more data oriented. So about 2 weeks ago, somebody said to me, DT, because we did a whole bunch of computer upgrades on my other computer. And somebody said to me, like, how long do you have your SSDs? And I said, I don't know, 4 years or so. You should test them to make sure that they're okay. And I was always under the impression, since SSD drives are not really mechanical, there's no moving parts, that they will last a lot longer than a traditional hard drive. So I downloaded a program called Crystal Disk Info. And I downloaded the program. It's free, by the way. And I installed it on my other computer, and sure enough, I got an alert that one of my SSDs was starting to fail. I downloaded the program in my office, and my office computer is fine. Now, keep in mind, this is my insurance business, and I got, 20 some odd years of customers' data in there, and I got an alert that one of my hard drives is overheating. 70 degrees Celsius, 75 degrees Celsius, had no idea. So now I had to order a new hard drive, and I have to replace it before it burns out on me. And in this hard drive right now, as we speak, I just had to pick up a Western Digital Black hard drive that I have not installed yet, because I downloaded the program, put it in this computer about a week ago, and sure enough, the hard drive that has all the data and everything is starting to fail as well. Had no idea. So out of nowhere, things could crash and I could lose tons and tons of shit. So my advice to all of you out there is Crystal Disk Info. Download it, let it run on your computer. It takes about 10 seconds to run, and it'll just tell you what your health is on your disk drives. There is an infinite amount of data that it could transfer, and there's an infinite amount of time. When you look at my drives and I see one is like 14,000 hours that I've used, the drive, I'm like, wow, you don't realize that. But the last thing I would want any of you out there is to have your computer crash. And, trust me, I go back to the 90s with my computers, And I lost a lot of photos, old episodes, audio, my music collection. Anybody remember Tombstone Radio? Luckily, I was able to recover the data, but I had hard drives crash on me. And that is a sucky, sucky feeling to have. So, all right, enough of that. 3 takeaways from tonight's SmackDown. 3 takeaways. The King and Queen of the Ring is takeaway number 1. Number 2, the Bo Dallas-led faction. That is takeaway number 2. And number 3 is the Bloodline. Now, let's tackle the Bloodline first. I enjoy episodic TV. I enjoy every single week storylines progressing. I like, I don't even care if it's long-term booking or not. As long as it's episodic and it continues smoothly and things make sense, that's what's great about wrestling. You don't have to rely on somebody killing their body, week in and week out and week in and week out and week in and week out. Sometimes you can, entertain the fans without having to, have an in-ring match. Some of the biggest moments in the Bloodline the last bunch of years didn't even involve wrestling. All the comedy stuff with Sami Zayn, the trial of the tribal chief, and a whole bunch of other shit that went down. But I will call out, I don't want to say laziness, but it's somewhat laziness. And this is something that I think, and listen, I don't turn completely on Vince McMahon, booker, creator, wrestling madman. We separate the person right now, and we don't know exactly what's going on over there. It doesn't look good, and it's very disturbing. But, I think it's safe to say the last 5 to 7 years that Vince's priorities, his complete focus is not necessarily just on the WWE. And when you are a billionaire 10 times over and you have that much revenue and WWE becomes a machine, you kind of get a little bit lazy with the storylines. I think we started getting really tired of some feuds that kept happening over and over and over again. It wasn't too long ago where the Usos and the New Day just over and over and over again. I remember the running joke about Randy Orton and Sheamus. And, those are 2 very general examples. But, Vince got very, very lazy. Things would just go through the motions. And I think Triple H sometimes is very, very guilty of that because over the last 8 months, and trust me, I don't think wrestling can be in WrestleMania mode 12 months out of the year. You do have to pull back a little bit. I compare it to intercourse. When you have intercourse, you have your foreplay, then it builds up and then it leads to, the pinnacle. Then you come down a little bit. You can't just it can't be cake and ice cream. It can't be an orgasm every single week. I know it's a bad analogy, but, I figured that's probably the one thing that most of us have in common, whether you like M&M's plain or with peanut. But the thing is that sometimes, we're not 10 years old watching the shows, and we should not just sit back and just accept things that are very, very flawed with common sense. One thing I think Triple H has done a great job with is you understanding that when things are trending and discussions are trending on social media, they acknowledge it on TV. They acknowledge it in storylines. I think most recently you look at Maxine Dupree, what happened on social media, and they turned it into a storyline like that. But I use the example of the Judgment Day. Rhea Ripley injures her shoulder. She had a sling on when she put the title in the middle of the ring. Dominic Mysterio has a sling on. Dominic is on TV every week. Rhea Ripley is at home. The Judgment Day is imploding right before our very eyes, and Rhea Ripley, in storyline, does not show up on Raw. What are you doing? With Judgment Day, we won Monday Night Raw. Sound like Elmer Fudd. In storyline, it is asinine that Rhea Ripley is not on TV, trying to smack some sense into the Judgment Day to be on the same page. Now I use it with the Bloodline. I get it. You know, a lot of wrestling fans are simpletons. They're like younger versions of Dave LaGreca, just a little bit more attractive and don't wear pink. I get it. Wrestling can be simple sometimes. But the idea that Roman Reigns has cut himself off from society and the WWE and the WWE Universe because he lost the undisputed WWE Universal Championship is asinine. Paul Heyman says, I haven't talked to Roman since WrestleMania. Solo Sikoa tonight says, well, I have. And Paul Heyman with his beady fat eyes. Solo Sikoa says, yeah, I have talked to Roman. And he's put me in charge. And I am taking care of business. You're my wise man now. And you know where this storyline is going. Roman Reigns is going to ultimately come back and call Solo Sikoa a liar. You're full of shit. I didn't give you that control. Hey, Roman, where the fuck are you right now? You know, the fans are chanting, we want Roman. But in storyline, why isn't Roman showing up? Why is it? Listen, we're not in 1985 where you have to use a payphone. You know, in storyline that this is happening week after week after week after week after week after week after week. And Roman doesn't call, doesn't send a tweet, doesn't send an email. You know, Nick Aldis doesn't make any attempts. You know, Roman Reigns could give a shit about the WWE Universe. You know, it's, even though I'm happy that Tama Tonga's on TV, doing a good job. Tonga Loa, we still have to give it a little more time. But, you know, we have to also take a little bit of common sense and say, why isn't Roman making a phone call? If Solo Sikoa is lying, why is it going to take a month and a half for Roman Reigns to call him out and a liar? Are we going to find out that he was chained to a tree? You know, and only thing that was there was just like 6 months supply of food and water and a whole bunch of empty bottles for him to pee in? Like, is that what we're supposed to believe? That Roman Reigns has just disappeared? You know, this is not like this is not even like 1998, 2004. You know, plus Solo Sikoa, you know, I love you, wise man. And he's looking the other way like, yeah, sure I do. And in common sense, Paul Heyman is not going to watch the replay on social media. Hey, Solo, what was up with that look? You know, that's something that Vince McMahon did all the time that would just aggravate the shit out of me. And they're doing it right now with the Bloodline, and they're doing it right now with the Judgment Day. And I think it's piss poor pathetic. I think it's pathetic. I don't know how you feel about it. You know, I could say for the 50,000th time, post a comment in a section, share with everybody. You know, let me know what you think. Do you agree? I mean, the storyline is still all right. And yes, once Roman comes back, all is forgiven, all is forgotten. Roman beats the crap out of Solo Sikoa, and, you know, we all forget about what we're talking about right now. But it makes zero sense that Roman Reigns has just alienated him completely from society, you know? I mean, you might as well, I hate to say it like this, you might as well bring back his leukemia. Claim that he has leukemia again, that he's busy in the hospital getting treated and he can't talk right now. He's incapacitated. Right now, the storyline comes across that Roman could give a flying fuck about the wise man, about the Bloodline, about the WWE Universe, about WWE, and neither does Nick Aldis or anybody else. That's my take. Now, take number 2 tonight, King and Queen in the Ring. If you tuned in to Kevin and I's recap of Backlash and our discussion this past Monday, we said Cody Rhodes' next opponent is probably going to be Logan Paul. If you look at the draft and you look at the WWE roster and you look at Saudi Arabia, Logan Paul was the ideal choice. You have to think of it in Saudi Arabia's mind, not on episodic TV, that this is the long haul. You know, Saudi Arabia makes more money than WrestleMania. So common sense, Logan Paul was going to be that person for Cody Rhodes. And sure enough, tonight on SmackDown, we learned Cody Rhodes versus Logan Paul. It is not title for title, obviously. It's just champion versus champion. So that is going down. Also, we have the King and Queen of the Ring. And again, think of the mindset of Saudi Arabia. You know, yes, if you want to go there, you don't have your Mustafa Ali's anymore. You don't have the Mansoors anymore. You don't have the darlings from that area of the world that WWE may give a little bit extra attention to. You know, you don't have your Shankies, when they went to India. You don't have your India Shears. You don't have your Jinder Mahals. So you have to look at it now on spectacle over common sense. So when you see this King and Queen of the Ring, understand when you see the participants, you say to yourself, okay, who would Saudi Arabia like ooh and ah about? Larger than life, characters. And that is the premise of this tournament. Common sense. After what Tama Tonga did to Kevin Owens and everything else, King of the Ring tournament? Why is Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill in the Queen of the Ring tournament if they're current champions? All right, why aren't the champions on Raw in the King of the Ring tournament? It's because of the Saudi Arabia aspect of this. If this was not taking place in Saudi Arabia, it was taking place in Texas, you would see totally different participants in this tournament. And on Monday, here's a little preview. And for the guy that tried to do the little gotcha to me, you failed miserably. But there's an interesting thing going on with Ricochet right now that Kevin and I will talk about on Monday. WWE made a change with this speed tournament, this WWE speed that they're doing on Twitter. Ricochet put out a very strange video this past Monday after he lost to Ehia. If you want a little preview, go on his Twitter, watch that video, and then as you're watching it, say to yourself, didn't this motherfucker just win the speed championship? You would think that he's going to be part of Bo Dallas's faction the way he was talking. That's pretty funny. But, Alicia Taylor did make her debut tonight on SmackDown. We talked about that on Monday. There was no chance Samantha Irvin was going to be moved from from Raw to SmackDown. But the King and the Queen of the Ring tournament. Now, let's talk about the men's side first. Now, I think we all agree Gunther is likely going to be the one that is going to either be King of the Ring or go into the finals. You don't just make history, and then for some odd bullshit reason, Gunther gets knocked out of this tournament, especially when you see strategically how they have placed the participants. Now, if you look at the men's side of SmackDown, we had Randy Orton defeat AJ Styles tonight, and you would have thought that maybe AJ Styles is given a little bit of a bone here, especially after losing at Backlash, after cutting a promo saying that he should be going on to King and Queen of the Ring tournament, but Randy Orton wins. Now, could Randy Orton end up going to King of the Ring? Yeah, if you think of Saudi Arabia and the Crown Prince and the people who they prefer to have there, that is not out of the question. Carmelo Hayes and Baron Corbin, I have no issues with either guy. Do you honestly think that WWE is going to woo Saudi Arabia by saying, King of the Ring final, Carmelo Hayes, Baron Corbin, yes, King Corbin, yes, we want the King, we want the Corbin. No, you don't want them at fucking advancing. So next week, we're going to have Randy Orton versus Carmelo Hayes. All right. Then you have next week, LA Knight versus Santos Escobar. LA Knight, I think, will likely advance there. And then tonight, we had Tama Tonga taking out Angelo Dawkins, who is filling in for Bobby Lashley because Bobby Lashley apparently is not cleared and could not compete. So If you look at this scenario, Randy Orton will take on Carmelo Hayes, and Randy Orton will likely advance. LA Knight will likely beat Santos Escobar. And then on the opposite side, Tom Matonga already advanced. So you might have LA Knight versus Tom Matonga. That's kind of a match that I think some of us were expecting to happen, especially with the history of Randy Orton and what happened recently with the Bloodline and LA Knight sort of getting involved with that as well. And then if that's the case, you have Tom Matonga versus LA Knight and Randy Orton versus Carmelo Hayes. We could very well end up with Randy Orton versus LA Knight or Tom Matonga, and then going into King of the Ring in Saudi Arabia could very well end up being Randy Orton. We could end up with Randy Orton versus Gunther at King of the Ring. On the women's side, it's a little bit more interesting leading up to Queen of the Ring, because tonight Nia Jax beat Naomi, and next week is going to be really interesting. I'm wondering if we get a disqualification in next week's match. But Nia Jax beat Naomi tonight. Jade Cargill beat Piper Niven. We have Tiffany Stratton taking on Michin, and I thought it was funny. Michin won in NXT. It was her first win since 2023. And right away, there's a video where she wants to fight for a championship. I thought it was as stupid as DIY cutting a video this week saying that they want a shot at the tag titles. I'm like, these motherfuckers just had 3 championship matches and they lost each one of them, and they still think that they should. It's WWE trying to make people appear to be bigger than what they are, but we know the smoke and mirrors. But Tiffany Stratton taking on Michin. I think if you had to bet your life on a match, I think Tiffany Stratton will win that one. And then you had tonight Bianca Belair beating Candice LeRae. What are the chances we get Bianca Belair versus Jade Cargill in the semifinals match? And then you go to Queen of the Ring, and it's either going to be Bianca Belair or Jade Cargill in the finals. Personally, I don't think either one of them should go to the finals because of the fact that they are women's tag team champions, but they are featured on the poster. They are featured on the poster. Monday, we cleared up why Bayley wasn't on the poster, because Bayley is not having a match at Queen of the Ring. But Jade and Bianca are featured. And then you got to start thinking to yourself, oh, do you think it's a possibility that Bianca Belair and Jade could end up in a no contest? Maybe Nia Jax gets involved and causes both of them, to throw the match out. And then Nick Aldis has Bianca and Jade advance. I don't think we want to see Bianca Belair versus Jade Cargill now. I think people want to wait and see that build for WrestleMania 41. But on the opposite side, you got Zoe Stark, Lara Vicaria, which honestly I don't see either one advancing, Skye, and the winner of Shayna Baszler versus Zelina Vega. We're probably going to get Skye versus Bianca. That's probably going to be the match in Saudi Arabia. Again, you have to think of it in the eyes of Saudi Arabia and the spectacle aspect of it. Sometimes the people who fight in these matches, not necessarily the persons, albeit very, very worthy, but maybe not in the position they should be, but because it's Saudi Arabia, they are. So, all right. So that's point number 2. Point number 3 is the Wyatt 6, the Bo Dallas-led faction. I know that's not smooth off the tongue, but it is a Bo Dallas-led faction. It is going to obviously have a Wyatt family influence. I do believe Wyatt will be referenced in the faction. But, tonight on SmackDown, we had another teaser. Now, I can't play the video because of copyright issues, but I can show you one thing in slow motion. I don't know if you all caught it tonight, but at the very beginning of SmackDown, they do their then, now, forever, together. If you watch this intro, you will see Randy Orton pop up on the screen. All right, I'm going to enlarge it. Some look a little bit strange on the right side, top right area of the intro. That if you look at last week and the week before and a bunch of weeks when they changed the intro to Triple H's voice, that is CM Punk that is always in that spot. Tonight, it looks like it's Sister Abigail to the left of Randy Orton. Now, this video, see it? That is what people believe to be Sister Abigail. All right. Now, after the video is done, all right, last chance to see Sister Abigail, right at top left hand of your screen. All right. After this video plays, you then get a little cryptic video of, them being forgotten, being promised. They were, never were going to be given what they were promised. And then, we get the teasers. Now, I want to bring up this super chat, and then I'll show the thumbnail because it definitely referenced to it. This is the thumbnail that I made up for tonight's show. The 5 participants in this faction that PW Insider released that said will be in it is Eric Rowan, who is now re-signed with WWE, Nikki Cross, Joe Gacy, Dexter Loomis, and Bo Dallas. Now, the 2 quotes that you see on your screen are the QR videos from the last 2 weeks. And that caught my eye. Why did you forget about them? All they ever wanted was a chance. Now, why is Braun Strowman faded out with the red crosses in his eyes, as well Alexa Bliss? Well, I will tell you in a few moments. Now, before I get into that, I want to address who sent this. BTC 316, who is a very big fan of the Wyatt family. BTC 316 says, Wrestling Days is obsessed with the Wyatt rebirth. And I think it's because he got Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt 6 so wrong and is obsessed to get it right. And based on what you said Monday, he is wrong again. My thoughts. Well, Wrestling Days, for those that don't know, DAZE has a YouTube channel. He is from overseas, and he does a lot of watch parties, covers wrestling. I like him. He is very, very entertaining. He's a good guy. I have no issues with Wrestling Days. As far as him getting the Bray Wyatt 6 wrong, I'll say this in defense of Wrestling Days. He was reacting to what everybody else was reporting. He was not reporting that as news. He was reacting to what everybody else was saying. A lot of people got it wrong, terribly wrong. So I can't criticize the guy. He is a huge fan of the Wyatt family, as I mean, Bray Wyatt was my favorite wrestler in the last 10 years, period. I don't need to prove it. My history of talking about it and all the stuff that I've shown you I've collected, speaks for itself. So him really getting into this, it's because he's a huge fan of the Wyatt family. I can't criticize the guy. I don't know what he is predicting right now. I don't know. You said that based on what I said Monday, he's wrong again. I don't know what him and others are reporting or believing or assuming. I truly believe what Kevin and I discussed on Monday is exactly what is happening with this Bo Dallas-led faction. I'll get into your second super chat in a moment. I want to just get back to this thumbnail. If you look, my friends, I have a 6th person on there with a question mark because I do believe to celebrate and pay tribute to Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt 6, you're going to have a 6th member. The big question is, who will be the 6th member of this faction? Some people are saying, they're going to do, a variation of the Fiend. It's going to be Uncle Howdy and this and that. Uncle Howdy, with all due respect, it does not sound serious. When you have Bray Wyatt and Uncle Howdy fucking with Bray Wyatt, it is different. But if to Kevin and I, Bo Dallas is going to be kind of what Bray Wyatt was in NXT when he first came up to the WWE. Kind of like a Cape Fear, kind of like a David Koresh, somebody who is promising a lot of things and people are falling under his spell. This is not going to be monsters. You're going to take parts of Bray Wyatt's history because it was successful, because we love it, because Bo Dallas is related to Bray. That's his brother. He loves him. We loved Bray Wyatt. So there's no reason why you can't take little teasers. The intro for tonight's SmackDown, they used a Sister Abigail. Now, if you looked at that graphic, Sister Abigail was wearing a white, whatever that, what's that you wear over your face when you have a funeral? A veil, excuse me, a white veil. Everybody's saying, oh, no, Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss wore a black veil, and Alexa Bliss was never Sister Abigail. So that's not Alexa Bliss being teased in that video tonight. That was a hack. That's not WWE replacing CM Punk with Sister Abigail. This was supposed to be a hack by Bo Dallas putting Sister Abigail in place of CM Punk. There is no subliminal message with CM Punk at all, but I believe, and Kev believes, there will be a sixth person. The big question is who? And that is really, really difficult. Now, before I get into what BTC also sent in, and I don't know how you all feel about it, but this is the thing. And again, one of the biggest Wyatt family fans that's been. I absolutely loved it. We have to keep in perspective who is being featured. Okay? This is not to take a shot on anybody in this faction. I am a huge Joe Gacy fan. Joe Gacy, obviously, what they did with the Grizzled Young Veterans and Ava Raine, it didn't really work out all that well. I absolutely cannot stand Joe Gacy wearing black trunks to the ring. He looks like a fat kid hanging out at the pool that doesn't realize he should be wearing a T-shirt. And look, I should talk. I wear a T-shirt. Joe Gacy challenged himself, as we've talked about before, to drop weight. Joe Gacy's not a fat guy, but he wasn't dressed to match what his character was. He looked like a generic guy wearing black tights wrestling in a ring. That was, to me, stupid over the last year and a half, 2 years, whatever it is. All right. So I'm excited to see Joe Gacy in this group. Dexter Lumis, if anybody remembers, during the Wednesday Night Wars, Dexter Lumis was one of my favorites. It was Keith Lee, and it moved to Dexter Lumis. At one point, he was my favorite wrestler of NXT, but I got frustrated because I was like, why is he losing every week? I get it. Indy Hartwell, I get it, all that. But he was losing. And it was like, this guy is so fucking good. Why is he losing? He had that, I loved his theme song. He had that aura, that intimidation, and it was more of a comedy gag than anything else. And I hated it. And they brought him to the main roster and they did nothing with Dexter Lumis. So I'm excited to see what Dexter Lumis can do. Nikki Cross, everybody remembers Sanity, and people want to see Nikki Cross, be able to use a little bit of that Sanity character and bring it to this group. And Eric Rowan, obviously, we all loved the Wyatt family. Out of the entire Wyatt family, I think a lot of people felt that Eric Rowan was the weakest link of them all, which is a little bit unfair. But, when you break it down to Bray Wyatt, Luke Harper, God rest his soul, Braun Strowman, and Eric Rowan was the weakest one of them all. So when you look at this faction, if Bo Dallas was not Bray Wyatt's brother, and you looked at this group, would it just feel more of just like a bunch of people that were underutilized, misused, that are going to come together and cause a little chaos, and maybe they can find it and click? That's what it is. And that's the premise of the storyline. If you listen to what is being said, even tonight's QR code teaser, it's all about you forgot about them. WWE forgot about them. They were promised, and they were never supposed to deliver on those promises. All they ever wanted was an opportunity. That is what this faction is. Bo Dallas is a salesman trying to find the misused, underutilized, underappreciated and say, come with me. Come with me. I will guide you. He is guiding me. I will guide you. That is what this storyline is. It's a bunch of misfit toys that were underutilized, underappreciated, and now they're giving a platform that they are given a chance to develop and expand. That is what this storyline is. It is not hard to figure it out. I'm kind of I'm blown away at some people's analysis on this, where it gets to the point where I say to myself, they either are just completely brain dead or they're just fantasizing something that is not going to happen. What people are saying is with the Fiend stuff and everything, who? It doesn't match it. These are underutilized, mistreated, misused, under the spell of Bo Dallas. I don't think he will be Bo Dallas. I don't think he will be Uncle Howdy. I think Uncle Howdy will be a nickname. I think that'll be a nickname, but that's not going to be his character. It doesn't sound serious. It sounds goofy. It sounds like a joke to an extent. So now the question is, who should be the sixth member? Now, as I put in the comment section for tonight, it's either going to be somebody that's been released already, that they're bringing back, somebody that is in Raw and SmackDown that is not getting utilized all that well, or it's somebody in NXT. It's either a free agent, somebody on the main roster, or NXT. Now, here is where it gets a little complicated. BTC 316 says he thinks Tatum Paxley should be the sixth member of this group. Now, if you watch NXT and you watch Tatum Paxley, she looks like a misfit. She looks like, like Jade Cargill meets, not Jade Cargill, Julie Hart meets Skye Blue with a bad makeup job. Like Tatum Paxley is kind of a whack job. The problem is with Tatum Paxley is most of the WWE universe doesn't really know her. So is she strong enough where she was promised things and they didn't deliver? Was she never going to be given that opportunity? When you start dissecting the quotes that are being used in his QR codes, in my opinion, Tatum Paxley does not fit in this group. So it's not a bad idea. Cosmetically, she would fit. Now, I'll say this. I'm going to say this, and I know I'm jumping the gun, but I'm going to say this. I personally believe that the sixth member should be a woman. I'll tell you why I think it should be a woman. Because when you look at this group with six people, Joe Gacy could team up with Bo Dallas. Joe Gacy could team up with Bo Dallas. Dexter Lumis and Eric Rowan could be a fun tag team. Those guys could also wrestle on their own. Nikki Cross could use a tag partner. Nikki could wrestle alone. The other woman could wrestle alone, but they could also be a tag partner. If you bring in another woman into this group, every person on this team could be a tag team. Eric Rowan and Dexter Lumis, Joe Gacy and Bo Dallas, Nikki Cross and another woman. So I personally think that it should be a woman. I've thought about this really long and hard. I think the problem with Shotzi is that she's injured and she is not returning, I think, for the better part of 2024. I thought about Shotzi. In fact, what I have, we're going to pull up in a minute, is I actually have the WWE roster in front of me. And I will share the screen and we will just go down this list quickly and see if anybody stands out. But I personally think it should be a woman. I'll tell you a wild card. It's somebody that some of you always bring up on these shows. Not every week, but every 2 weeks, somebody will throw up about, not throw up like vomit, but bring up certain female. Somebody that's not in WWE right now. And if you were going to go with somebody that is not currently in WWE, that was never in WWE, I thought of one person that would be pretty fucking interesting. If they changed her look, I'll give a hint. She was in XPW recently. I mean, yes, How the Mighty Have Fallen, but still, when I saw that, I was like, whoa, I did not expect her to be doing some shit extreme. Yeah, some people are figuring it out. I think it would be pretty fucking wild if WWE brought in Tessa Blanchard and just drastically changed her look and put her in that faction. The only problem is I don't know how she would work with Nikki Cross as a tag team. Bianca Belair with the run-in. Shout out to Austin Nance, 38 months. I'm a member of the family. Thank you, Austin. Thank you for holding the ship, moderating as well, along with Chaos and OTSTribalQueen. But look, do I think Tessa Blanchard is going to be in the group? No. But every 2 weeks, somebody's like, why doesn't WWE bring in Tessa Blanchard? Why doesn't Tessa Blanchard? Why is she not in AEW, WWE? Why is she this? Why is that? Look, I believe that everybody deserves a second chance. All right. Do I believe that she said what she said to La Rosa Negra? Yeah, I do. I do. Even though La Rosa Negra doesn't really speak English, I don't think you could kind of like mistake that. Darling, give me a headlock. What did you say? I think she really did say that. But I also believe that she hasn't done anything since. She's been banished from wrestling for a good part. I think that she deserves a second opportunity to show that maybe she did make mistakes in the past and she's learned by those mistakes. But I don't think Tessa Blanchard will be in the group. Before we go over this roster really quickly, it doesn't have to be a woman. Just because I say it should be a woman doesn't mean it has to be a woman. But I will say this. When you look at this group, okay, you don't want to put someone in there simply because they fit a spot. It's got to match the premise of the story. That is why I blacked out Alexa Bliss. That is why I blacked out Braun Strowman. We didn't forget about them. They've been given chances. Braun Strowman's been given a lot of chances. Alexa Bliss has been a champion multiple times. Alexa Bliss was not forgotten in the Wyatt family. Alexa Bliss left to have a baby, and she got married. So when you look at the storyline, Alexa Bliss and Braun Strowman don't fit the group. They don't fit the group. If you forced me, I would say Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross are similar in size. I think they actually would be really interesting together as a tag team. I don't want big behemoth monster like Piper Niven and Nikki Cross, even though they do have history. But I think it's got to be a female that is similar in size to Nikki Cross. I don't think one woman should, shine the other one simply by appearance. So when you look at the roster, and I'm going to pull it up now, and honestly, it's only going to take us like 5 minutes to scroll through this because a lot of names on here obviously have no shot in being in it. But let's see. Let's pull this up. Here we go. All right, let me close this, and here, I'll share my screen. This is straight from WWE's website, all right? And as we look, I mean, some of these names obviously doesn't stand out to me. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, I believe, are now on Raw. Now, yes, this faction, we do not know which brand they will be on. So Alba Fire is definitely a possibility. Alba Fire would be interesting, but I think that spells, doom for Isla Dawn. So no, I don't think Alba Fire will be in this. Again, we're not going to put a name in there simply because they're a name. You go down this list and you look at Andrade, Andre Chase, Apollo Crews, the Street Profits, Ariana Grace, Ashante Adonis, Cedric Alexander, Oscar. None of these people fit. B-Fab is with the Pride. She's not going to be in it. Obviously, Bianca Belair, Blair Davenport, they did a little video package with today on SmackDown. Whoever it is has got to be somebody that's going to be taken off TV for a little bit. Unless, I just had a little bit of a brainstorm. We'll go back to it. Unless, do they start out with 5 and then they try to tease someone to join them? Because if that's the case, then I have a person for you. I don't know if you all... Now, let me set this up a little bit. This woman is someone that's been given opportunity, but has failed quite a bit recently. Kind of say that her tour did not work out as good as she's planned it to be. Could the Bo Dallas faction start off with 5 people and then they start looking around trying to recruit additional people? We would need one more person and we will be complete. What do you think about having Liv Morgan ultimately join this group? Liv Morgan fails against Becky Lynch in Saudi Arabia. Liv Morgan snaps, taken off TV. Then, or when the faction begins, they try to swoop up Liv Morgan, sell her a bunch of beans. She thinks that they will sprout into opportunity. Liv Morgan joins the group. Just an idea. Just an idea. Listen, I will say this to everyone out there. There is no perfect answer. There is no perfect answer because as we go down this list, Brindley Reese is not going to be in it. Brock Lesnar, Braun Breaker, Bronco Nima, Bronson Reed. I'm not going to read every single person. Candice LeRae is not going to be in it. Indy Hartwell would be interesting. Carmella, she just had a kid, but Carmella's been given probably too much opportunity, so Carmella's not going to be in it. You continue going further. Charlotte Flair obviously is a queen. She doesn't need to be in it. Chelsea Green is too good of a personality. Cora Jade is injured for the foreseeable future. Danny Palmer, nobody knows about, and honestly, nobody cares about yet. Elektra Lopez doesn't fit the group. Fallon Henley doesn't fit the group. Gigi Dolan would be freaking fascinating. But Gigi Dolan has been given opportunity. She was part of the greatest faction, arguably, in NXT, or one of the top women's tag teams of all time in NXT. I think Gigi Dolan would be a very interesting choice. But I personally want to see Toxic Attraction reunite. Gigi Dolan and JC Jane are meant to team up again. I think that team are going to reunite. Indy Hartwell. Wouldn't that be something if Indy Hartwell reunited with Dexter Lumis? I don't like it because people immediately would want to think of comedy segments. So I don't think that would be good. Isla Dawn is too new for the fans to care. The other women, and I know we're focusing on the women because on the men's side, a lot of the wrestlers that are not working out all that well, people say Karrion Kross. The problem is Karrion Kross, you got Scarlett. So you're not going to put Karrion Kross and Scarlett in the group. I thought Ivar would be great, but Ivar's too big of a guy, and we don't need another big man in this group. Kanan Carter, Katana Chance, without them being a tag team, I think they're pretty much worthless. Kiana James hasn't been given an opportunity yet, so she doesn't fit. I think if you're forcing me to look at this list and you have to pick somebody, a female, would you put Meechin in it? Would you put Michin in it? Mia Yim, would you consider Michin? I don't know. I don't think so. You know, it's, you look at this list, it is very, very difficult. Raquel Rodriguez, I think, would not fit in at all. Plus, she's dealing with the health issues, so, you know, we hope she could get back. Isn't it funny how Shane McMahon is still listed? Isn't it funny how Shane McMahon is still listed? Just saying. Shotzi would be great if Shotzi was able to return. As far as I know, Shotzi Blackheart is not able to return. Sonya Deville, been given many opportunities. Tamina, I don't think both Dallas faction would be Mina if they got Tamina. I don't think Tamina should be. I know people are saying Tatum Paxley would be a great fit. Tegan Knox, I think she's too risky because of her injury history. Tegan Knox, I don't like the idea. If Natty joins the group, I quit the shows. If Natty joins the group, I've never been given an opportunity. She's got the Guinness World Record for the number of matches. She joins that group, I quit. Thea Hale, I don't think would fit. Valhalla's about to have a kid. Congrats to her. So she's not going to fit. Zelina Vega's been given opportunities. Zoe Stark, I do not want in that group. Zoe Stark and Nikki Cross. I think whoever it is, you know, I think has got to be a woman. I don't know what you all think about it. I know some of you posted your ideas in the chat section. Yeah, Tamina's still in the company. So far, the choices that people have brought up the most is Tegan Knox, Liv Morgan, Shotzi, and Tatum Paxley. I leave you, before we go to questions, I leave you with this thumbnail one more time. Not because I made it, but because I want you to look at this group and really think about the group. We all loved Bray Wyatt, most of us. We all thought the Wyatt family was cool. We thought Bray Wyatt was one of the most creative geniuses in wrestling in for this generation. All right, we love everything that happened, but we cannot recreate that. We cannot replace it. We cannot duplicate it. The only thing we could do is pay tribute to it. And when you look at this group, you know, does it look to you that it's going to turn into something huge? Is this going to be the next great faction? Or is this a bunch of underutilized, the WWE creative cannot fucking figure out how to use them? How is WWE going to suddenly creatively light a light bulb and say, now I know how to use them? You know, NXT, Joe Gacy, I give him a pass. He hasn't been on the main roster. Nikki Cross, WWE never really gave her an opportunity. They did the superhero shit, which didn't work in the end. Both Dallas, Dexter Lumis, they really didn't do much of. You know, again, this is the land of misfit toys, underutilized, underappreciated. Whoever joins this group has to fit in that role. If I'm a betting person, I'm betting on Liv Morgan. I think Liv Morgan. Especially this revenge tour has failed, and it's going to continue failing. I think Liv Morgan could end up being in that group. I'm not saying that she's the perfect choice. Look, this is a dilemma that WWE has. I looked at all the wrestlers. I'm going to throw out another name right now that nobody's brought up tonight. I thought of all the wrestlers that WWE's released in the last 3 years. And I focused on the women more than anything. And the only person that I could see brought back but did so much in NXT would be Mandy Rose. Would Mandy Rose fit in this group? I don't think so. I don't think Mandy Rose could fit in this group. I would love to see Mandy Rose return. I personally think Mandy Rose, especially with NXT going to the CW network, if Mandy Rose were to return to NXT and, force JC Jane and Gigi Dolan to mend fences, I think Toxic Attraction would be fucking great. Toxic Attraction, for most of us, we didn't want to see them split up. to this day, most of us are confused why they had JC Jane and Gigi Dolan, break up as a team. They haven't been the same. They tried to put JC Jane and Chase University. It never really fit. They had her align with another woman, never really fit. Gigi Dolan is just, you kind of like question yourself, like, why hasn't Gigi Dolan like requested a release? Creatively, it just doesn't seem like it's working. So I personally think Mandy Rose should return to NXT and reform Toxic Attraction. So with that said, let's hit the floor. We've gone an hour, so we'll go another half hour. We'll get into your questions, and then we will call it for tonight. Don't forget, this Monday night, Kevin and I will be live at 11:15 p.m. on DTKC Discord. We may open the phone lines. It depends on, how much news we cover on Monday. But if you're part of our Patreon family, we are doing live calls on Tuesday. So all the details will be posted on Patreon, and that episode will be going down. Kevin and I will be live on Tuesday on Patreon, doing calls. Anybody time difference or doesn't want to call in, doesn't have the capability, or is just shy, you'll still be able to send us questions. So, all right. JS says, what if it's JoJo? JoJo is not going to be wrestling. JoJo is taking care of the kids. She is still grieving. She is not going to be wrestling. JoJo is not going to be wrestling. Yeah, Ruby Soho is legitimately pregnant. We talked about that 2 weeks ago. She is legitimately pregnant, and good for her. Congrats to her. Shout out to Nero Faye, tuning in all the way from Israel. 35 months as a member of the family. My thoughts on the campus encampments. I think there's a lot of people on these college campuses that aren't even from these college campuses that are using the college campuses. And, it's a mess. It is a mess. There's a lot of people who are protesting that don't even understand exactly why they're protesting. As ridiculous as that sounds, trust me. I have a relative that's going to one of these colleges that lives on campus and is sending us little videos from her phone of some of the things going down. And she's talked to people there, and some people like, and just, there's a lot of people that are there for real legitimate reasons. There's a lot of people that are just there to disrupt. It's a shame. There's a lot of legitimate protests that have gone on over the years for various reasons, from race to war. And unfortunately, there are other people that are there just to use it as a reason to disrupt. There's a lot of people that hate this country. There's a lot of people that hate law enforcement. There's a lot of people that hate government. There's a lot of people who unfortunately hate certain groups and certain races out there on both sides. And it's terrible. Dream 101. Thank you for the 2-spot Dream. Sometimes he misses Vince and his goofy storylines. I've been a fan of wrestling since 79. I live in New York. I'm a lifelong New Yorker. Mostly everything that I knew growing up as a wrestling fan outside of the magazines was WWF. We would have, Telemundo, we would have, AWA, we would have, WCW, NWA, but for the most part, it was WWF. And, Vince McMahon, it's weird. I brought this up a few times before. Outside of my father and my brother, Vince McMahon is probably the third man that I have, that's been that long in my life, that's influenced me in a way because of wrestling. WrestleMania and Hulkamania is what got me and my grandmother closer together. It's weird. It's a shame to see, how much of a perv and a pig that he is grown into. I don't know how much of what happened is legit and what part of it is a billionaire millionaire's world, but it's sad. It's sad because Me, I always wanted to pay tribute to Vince McMahon, that the day that he dies, I wanted to come up here and pay tribute, do a lot of fond memories, but it's going to, the way it stands right now, it's going to be like, wow, talk about somebody who is arguably the most important person to ever come across in wrestling and just totally wasted it away because of his penis. It's a shame. By the way, before we get into more questions, if you are a fan of basketball and hockey, there's something really interesting going on in New York right now. I have told many times in the past, my favorite football team is the New York Giants. My favorite basketball team is the New York Knicks. My favorite hockey team is the New York Rangers. Right now, the Rangers and the Knicks could be duplicating 1994. The Rangers, I think, are 7-0 in the playoffs right now. The Knicks, I think, are 2-0 up on the Pacers right now. You look at the comparisons that are on the screen right now. In 1994, the Rangers won the President's Trophy. They were the number one seed in the East, and they won the Stanley Cup. They are exactly the same this year. They just haven't won the Stanley Cup as of yet. And the Knicks this year are exactly the same as 1994. They were the number 2 seed in the East. The only thing is they lost Game 7 of the NBA Finals. I think the Houston Rockets, right? Let me tell you something. I'm looking at it right now, and I'm not going to start taking books out, but I was a massive fan of the Knicks, especially the Knicks and the Rangers in the 90s, even in the 80s. I have so many vintage Knick games. My favorite players, Anthony Mason, John Starks, Charles Oakley, even the secondary players that would be on the team. Oh, God. I'm drawing a blank on one of them in particular. It's pissing me off, but Patrick Ewing, obviously, but there's others. Who is number 54? Charles Smith. Anybody remember Charles Smith? I love the Knicks, but what's interesting is a weird thing. Some of you know this story already. In 1994, when OJ was on the highway, I have told this story in the 90s. In my hotline days. So nobody that's, anybody that's a life longer of what I do knows that what I'm saying is not a lie. In 1994, I was at a strip joint named Honey's that used to be in Sunnyside, Queens. And my friend Kenny, God rest his soul, who passed away a couple of years ago, he used to do carpentry work. So this strip bar, Honey's, needed to get some electrical work done. So we went there in the afternoon, and it was a strip joint, and we're watching the girls, and we're drinking a couple of drinks, and my friend Kenny's in the back room fixing some lighting stuff, and we're watching the Knicks playoffs on the screen, and then all of a sudden we get breaking news, and they show the OJ chase. And it was just mind-blowing to watch the OJ chase in real time. Was it the Knicks or was it the Rangers? I think it was the Knicks. And, that happened on that day. It was preempted. We were watching sports, and next thing you know, the OJ chase is on the TV screen. So it's one of those where I was, what I was doing. Yeah, it was the Knicks, Michael Gonzalez. It was towards, I think, the beginning or near halftime, and they just broke it and we see the OJ chase. So that was wild. That was wild. 30 years later, kind of duplicating it. I'm not going to lie. I'm not a fan of the Knicks now. It's not that I'm not a fan of the Knicks. I just don't follow the team like I used to. The last time that I really was hardcore following the Knicks is when Latrell Sprewell was on the team. Remember Latrell Sprewell? Number 8. That's the last time that I was really, really hardcore in this team. Who was Grandmama? I'm drawing blanks right now, but man, that brings back a lot of memories. But all right, let's get back to questions. Why was Jeff Hardy fired from the WWE? Jeff Hardy walked out. Jeff Hardy got burned out, walked out, jumped the guardrail, went through the crowd, and never to be seen again in the WWE. He's battling a lot of demons every day. To the day he dies, it'll be a struggle with alcohol and pain. So will he return to the WWE? Yeah, I think so. I think under the new regime, the Hardys will be back, but they will not be utilized anywhere like you think that they would be utilized. So, Larry Johnson. Thank you, Michael Gonzalez. I remember Larry Johnson. Remember those commercials? Grandmama. Knicks were great back then, man. Roderick Howard, any idea where the Orange Cassidy, Don Callis storyline is going? Orange Cassidy walking away from the post-match attack last Wednesday was dumb. Listen, AEW right now is so uncool. I actually, somebody sent me this before we went live because of Chuck Taylor. I don't ever wish any ill will on any wrestler. But somebody said to me tonight, DT, your favorite AEW wrestler is going to be forced into retirement. Chuck Taylor's got like permanent injuries. I look at that guy. That is like buying an indie wrestler on Wish. Chuck Taylor should name his first kid Tony, should name his pets Tony, he should tattoo his balls. One of them should be Tony, the other one should be Shad. That guy, I will say in the last 30, 40 years of being a wrestling fan, that guy, I think, has gotten the most with the least. To me, he just was generic indie, didn't have the look. I don't understand why this guy was on TV. Best friends, lovers, we're not best friends. We never were best friends. I used to be a friend. I don't care. Orange Cassidy walking away from Don Callis, it just doesn't make sense. They're just throwing people together, trying to make it intriguing TV. Look, I supported AEW. I still support AEW. There are wrestlers there that I enjoy watching, but Mercedes Moné has been there for 2 months and has done jack shit. Christian Cage loses a TNT match against Adam Copeland, disappears and comes back, gets a world title shot. I get it. Now they're just throwing stuff together and hoping that it sticks, hope it gains attention. I have realized that Tony Khan, I said this 3-4 years ago, that this was going to be the first millennial promotion, that Tony Khan, it's like, that rich kid that has a whole bunch of toys. I know, every Hall of Famer that does a podcast now says it, but we were saying that 4 years ago. The guy, I think he's a special needs guy. I think when he does goofy things and if you closely watch his father in the background, his father blushes. Like, yeah, that's my son, but, I love my son. And, yeah, he's got a couple of screws loose, but he's my son. If Shad Khan is not in the picture, Tony Khan would not be there. I want to see what happens to Tony Khan when Shad and his mom are no longer there. I know that sounds cold, but this is kind of like, it's like a puppy. It's like a puppy that loses their mother and their father and they're just hanging out in the woods. Like, what do I do now? I'm just going to eat poison mushrooms all day and be high. There's something about Tony Khan that is just off. You watch the NFL Network, you watch people outside in sports, they laugh at him, they chuckle at him. I don't talk about it that much because I'm not going to be one of these people that is just trying to make thousands of dollars in ad revenue by belittling everything that he does. But AEW has turned into a lot of garbage. And there's a lot of shit that don't make sense. And to me, the biggest problem about AEW is simple. I've brought this up before, and I narrow it down like this. Whenever you hear WWE touting something big, revenue, attendance, gate, merchandise, tickets sold, anything, they will always thank the WWE Universe. The WWE Universe, you did this. When you go to AEW, Tony did this. Thank you, Tony. And then Tony Khan, when he brags about AEW, oh, we got the greatest wrestlers in the world. We have the greatest matches in the world. Sting just retired, and we have Will Ospreay, and we signed the biggest free agents. No, you don't sign the biggest free agents. The only biggest free agents they signed are the ones that WWE does not want to take. If you really want to break that down, they didn't sign Drew McIntyre. They didn't sign Seth Rollins. They didn't sign Finn Balor. They didn't sign Becky Lynch. They didn't sign this person. You know, when you actually dissect it, it's all about, it's always about Tony Khan, putting over Tony Khan and putting over the wrestlers. And then, we built the, biggest fan base, and, fans are third. For WWE, fans are third also. But they make the fans believe that they are number one. Without the WWE Universe, there is no WWE. Without the fans, AEW still exists because of Tony Khan. That is it in a nutshell. AEW puts Tony Khan on a platter. You look at all the wrestlers on the line. Oh, Tony Khan creates jobs. Tony Khan did this. No, without the fans, yeah, these people still would have their jobs because Tony Khan is doing it. It's thank Tony, thank the wrestlers, thank the fans last. And it comes across on the TV. A lot of the stuff we watch, it's dream matches of Tony Khan's. It's not dream matches of ours. It's dream matches of Dave Meltzer's. It's dream matches of about 200 people that vote once a year on Observer News Awards. And because they love it, we're supposed to like it. And that turns me off. So I could care less about Orange Cassidy. I could care less about the Don Callis storyline. It is stupid. I don't care about Trent. I don't care about Chuck. I don't care about their friendship. I don't care about their mother. I don't care about their caravan. I never cared about it. I don't care if they fight in a parking lot. I don't care if they fight on a highway. I don't care if they fight on the edge of a cliff. I don't care if they fight on Mount Everest. I don't care if they fight in Spanish Harlem. They're best friends. I don't fucking care. They don't belong on the TV. So I'm spending more time on them now than I think I've ever did in 4 years. And I have nothing personal against them. I have nothing personal against them. But you see the amount of TV time and exposure these guys get, and you look at everybody else that doesn't get used properly, and then they suddenly appear on TV and, they're finally getting a shot. Then a month later, nothing happens. We talked about that with Ricky Starks. We talked about that about Hobbs. We talked about that about Wardlow. We talked about that with Miro. We talked about that with people over and over and over and over again. So how many times does it have to happen until you start saying, I still keep this on my background because people are like, DT. No, you got, no, the playoffs. No, preemption, California. No, this, that. The numbers are worse than they are here. Mercedes Moné closed out Dynamite this week, did 650,000 viewers. I think of Tony Khan when The Undertaker and John Cena show it. We'll move on because we got to start bringing this home. Where is Miro? He's probably in his house right now, in Bulgaria. Maybe on OnlyFans or eHarmony. I'll say this. What was I going to say? About some of these guys. Shit, I just lost my train. Oh, I know what I was going to say about the ratings. What's the best way I could put this? I'll talk about it another time. I lost my train of thought. That's okay. Let's get into more questions. Tristan, as a fan of mafia and gangster films, did I ever watch Burt Reynolds' The Crew? If so, did I enjoy it? No, I never watched The Crew. If the last name of the actor doesn't have an A or an E or an I or an O, a vowel, I never really got into it. I don't like gangster films where people, I mean, I get it. Muhammad Hassan, who's Italian, played, an Indian guy, an Arab. When I watch gangster films, I want to see Italians play Italians. I can't get into it. Burt Reynolds is an awesome actor. I love this stuff. I was even watching a TV show he did in 1970. I don't know if it was Manic. I don't remember the name of it, but I was watching some of it like a week ago. I was pretty impressed. He was acting in the 60s. Nier is asking, do I think LA Knight will be a world champion in the WWE? Possibly. Not right now. Not in the near future. I'm a little surprised that near that it's taken him this long to win one singles title. I get it with Chad Gable. It's going to be a very special moment when Chad wins it, and I hope it's at WrestleMania, and I hope it's as a babyface. LA Knight, though, now with the Bloodline no longer having the stranglehold on titles, and Gunther's historic reign ended, if there was ever an opportunity for LA Knight to win a championship in the next 3 months, it's now. Problem is, Logan Paul is doing a great job, and WWE is fine with him defending the title every couple of months. So Logan Paul, the good thing about Logan Paul is he doesn't need to hold the championship to still, get that reaction from the fans. I think Logan Paul's championship is LA Knight's greatest shot at a championship right now. Vance is asking me, what do I think about the Ric Flair incident? Oh, we're going to be sharing the video on Monday when we do the enhanced version for the channel members. He got drunk in a pizzeria and they kicked him out, and he ran to Twitter and bashed the pizzeria. And he made a claim that he was in a bathroom and an employee in the pizzeria wanted an autograph. And he's like, one thing I don't do is take pictures and sign autographs in the bathroom. Because in the bathroom, you don't know where your hands have been and whatever. The video comes out that Ric Flair is at the bar, pissed drunk, telling off the bartender because they cut off his drinks because he was drunk. Ric Flair, very appreciative of what level of entertainment he's given me for decades as a pro wrestling fan. But now he is just an angry, drunk that never grew up, that, is not going to leave any money or anything to his children or his family. He just parties. And listen, he's gone through a lot of pain in his life. I get it. He tragically lost his son. He's gone through some bad marriages. Some of his relationships with his kids have not been the greatest. I get it. There's a lot of pain that Ric Flair has decided to drink away. He is just a bitter drunk, and it's sad. It's sad, but it's not surprising. And I don't like this. Oh, that's just Rick being Rick. That shouldn't be anybody. That's just sad. He's sad. He's sad. Listen, as far as the plane stuff, I'm not downplaying it, but that was decades ago. Like if Rick was still doing shit like that in, recent years, you know what I mean? It doesn't make it better, but, it's decades ago. People have done stupid shit when they were younger and they learn by it. There's a lot of people forget some of the antics that other people, look at your beloved Randy Orton, who's supposedly shit in the bags of what? Amy Weber and others. I think some people forget some of the disgusting acts that some people have done to people in wrestling. But as time goes by, people grow up, people mature. I watched that Randy Orton documentary recently, and Randy Orton, man, talk about an inspirational story and somebody who, learned and grew and matured, and the guy's a fucking role model now. Randy Orton, I fucking, one of my favorites now, even as just a person, how that guy is just grown up. Somebody asked me on Patreon the other day, they were bringing up feuds from 2005. I think one was Undertaker Orton and the other one was Batista Triple H. Which one was the better feud? And I always thought it was Batista Triple H because Randy Orton in 05, we were podcasting at that time. You listened to some of the episodes we covered. We despised Randy Orton in 05. We didn't care about the legend killer stuff as much as we should have because he was just such a fuck up outside of wrestling. If he didn't have that aspect about him, we probably would have invested a lot more energy in the legend killer character. And the interesting thing is, there are some people to this day that think that some of Randy Orton's greatest work was in 05, 06. And you look back on it, and it's impressive. But, when someone was that much of a problem outside of wrestling, you don't want to really root for the guy or invest in him. So Randy Orton, man, I'm telling you, he should have been much more appreciated 20 years ago, 19 years ago. So, all right. Jeff is asking me who won the 1990 and 1992 King of the Ring. Google it. I can't think of it offhand. I know Morocco won the first one. I think Bret Hart won. So, someone want to Google it? Give him his answer. I have a lot of encyclopedia knowledge. You want to test me on ECW random, go ahead. But yeah, it's 1990 King of the Ring Queen. Yeah, it's got to be. I think Bret Hart might be one of them. I don't know. Just Google it. Benjamin has a comment. The only explanation he can think of is Paul Heyman is lying about not talking to Roman, or Roman is doing some Samoan mediation in isolation. No, if Paul Heyman was lying, then Solo Sikoa would have called out Paul Heyman on his lies. Imagine if they're both lying. Roman catches them both lying. Listen, Paul Heyman is going to be a babyface. Paul Heyman's in the Hall of Fame now. Paul Heyman is going to reunite with Roman. Paul Heyman is... Listen, I get it. Paul Heyman probably could help Solo and Tonga and Tama, but Paul Heyman is... People want to see Paul Heyman back with the Usos and Roman Reigns. They want to see those poses again. So Tama Tonga... Tongaloa and Solo Sikoa will be their own rogue, and there'll be a bunch of liars. Paul Heyman is not lying. Near's asking, when was the last time I had Creplock? You want to know something? I swear on God. I can't prove it now because we're live. I swear on God. I'll give you a little reveal, everybody. My mom's in the hospital. As far as I know, everything's good. She comes home tomorrow. You know what I got her for Mother's Day? Swear to God. I got flowers being delivered tomorrow. And I also have Katz, K-A-T-Z, delicatessen being delivered to her. I went on Katz's website a couple of days ago, and I have pastrami, corned beef, kreplach, rugula, knishes, hot dogs, rye bread, and mustard being delivered to her. My mom loves Jewish pastrami and corned beef. I used to work for Ben's Best. We're not going to get into that story tonight, but I used to work for a Jewish deli in the early 90s. I worked for Ben's Best. One of the guys that I worked with was very, very close friends with Georgianne Macropolis. And that's how I used to get tickets to sit front row at the Garden with Georgianne. That's how I met Georgianne Macropolis, God rest her soul. One of my friends that I became friends with that worked in the deli used to go to the Garden and sit front row with Georgianne. But I used to work at a Jewish deli and used to bring home pounds of corned beef, kreplach. Oh, my God. But I'm on keto now, so I can't eat that stuff. Rams fan is asking, can Jacob Fatu travel outside the U.S. when he comes to the WWE? I don't know. That's a good question. I would have to do a little bit of a background check on him. And by the way, about the Darby Allin accident report, I put a little teaser of the report in the channel members video Monday. I'm not making it public. I talked to someone who I trust, not in wrestling, but in the insurance business, and they said, don't put that public. I have access to traffic records. And even though I could censor out, blacken out, like the plate number and the driver and Darby Allin's address and all this other stuff, the incident report. Funny thing is about the incident report, it really doesn't talk about Darby all that much. So it seems to me that he refused medical attention on the scene. But you don't just walk into a Broadway play with a Band-Aid on your nose and some gauze and I think he did go to the hospital. But I'm not putting that report public. You got the teaser, that's enough. But Jacob Fatu, I would have to do a little bit of a background check and find out. If anybody wants to check it, go on Intellis.com. It might be Intellis, Intellis.com, and type in his real name and date of birth. I think it's like $20, and you can get a little bit of a background check, and it should give you the answer if he could travel outside the U.S. But, right now he's not even in the company, so I don't think that's something that WWE really needs to worry about right now. So Jeff is asking, why don't I say Matarazzi anymore? I don't know. Just haven't. Trust me, I'll probably start saying it now because you brought it up. But yeah, it was a word I created that's on Urban Dictionary, by the way. It's got like 500 thumbs up too. By the way, it would be pretty cool if some of you take a moment and give a thumbs up for the shows. I don't stress that enough for the algorithms and stuff like that, but one of the reasons why I pulled back doing videos is because there's not much interaction. As much as I love doing it, I'm married. I got 2 sick parents. I got a wife inside. I got a dog that's annoying the shit out of me, but I love her. There's a lot of things going on, and, I appreciate and get all the support. But when I see like 80% of you out there checking out somebody else's live show, it's like, I'll do shows, but I ain't going to get 2 hours sleep to be somebody's third choice. So, the more if the shows get bigger on YouTube, then we'll do more again. And I've talked to Kev about doing shows on YouTube. Not now, though. We're doing baby steps and slowly getting back. DeMarcus, thank you for the 10 spot, DeMarcus. What do I think would have happened if John Cena beat RVD at ECW One Night Stand? Do you think there could have been any real danger of the audience rioting? I listen, I have a lot of friends that went to ECW One Night Stand, and I wanted to go. For a lot of people that don't know, I'm not going to get into the whole story here, but at the same time this was happening, Hardcore Homecoming was happening. And I originally was involved in Hardcore Homecoming. I was supposed to do all the bus trips. Mike Johnson on PW Insider fucked me in the butt really bad. So I was like, fuck you. I pulled out. That's when WWE threatened to sue me. I don't think I have the papers handy, but WWE tried to sue me. And yeah, I don't have the papers handy. Maybe next week, if somebody reminds me, I'll post them. But I trademarked ECW because of Hardcore Homecoming, because I wanted to be able to say ECW reunion show. And when I was advertising and WWE threatened to sue me, I was like, oh yeah, no problem. I trademarked the original Eastern Championship Wrestling. And then I said, can I use it now as a, ECW reunion show? And they said, yes. So I did it. And then Todd Gordon threatens to sue me. And Mike Johnson starts pushing his own bus trip. So I told Shane Douglas, look, I can't do it. So I wanted to go to One Night Stand in place of it. But I had a lot of friends that went. They said it was insane that night. But there was also a sign that said, if Cena wins, we still go home. You go home. I want to make something clear. I know it's kind of boring, or maybe it's ruining the fun a little bit, but one thing that I always loved about being an ECW fan, that's why I pay tribute. I have a lot of respect for everybody that was involved in ECW. Believe me, nothing but love for everybody involved. Harry Slash, fucking one of my favorites that never gets acknowledgement like he should. But here's the thing. When I started going to ECW events in 1994, I came from New York. And, when we got there, and I've told this story before, when we went in the building the first time and we were introduced to a bunch of people, regulars in the crowd, there was always this concern about New York, Philly, because you got to keep in mind, this is 1994. In the late 80s, early 90s, the New York Mets and the Philadelphia Phillies really, really despised each other. I think it was 1990 or 1993 that Dwight Gooden got into a massive fight with a Phillies player. And there was this tremendous brawl on the field. And there was a lot of bitterness because there was a trade Lenny Dykstra and Roger McDowell went to the Phillies in place of, I think, Juan Samuel. And we despised the trade. And they went to the Phillies and fucking killed it. But there was this gigantic rivalry. There was a rivalry with the Eagles and the Jets. But I was not a Jets fan. I'm a Giants fan, so I didn't care. But there was a huge rivalry in New York, Philly. So 1994, you go to Philly, and keep in mind now, this is 30-year anniversary of the Rangers winning the Stanley Cup. You know, the Flyers were not very popular in this neck of the woods. Was it Eric Lindros? Was that the guy? I mean, Philly was enemies. We went in there, and there was a little uneasiness, you know, that, oh, we're New Yorkers, you know, people are going to gang up on us, not beat us up or anything, but maybe harass us a little bit. And we were welcomed with open arms. You know, it smelled like shit in there. It was nothing but armpits. But everybody in that building were like, come on, hang out. You know, ECW. So the reason why I say that is ECW One Night Stand, there was a boatload of legit ECW fans that were in attendance that day. And I could tell you that looking back on it, they were angrier at JBL for beating up the Blue Meanie than they were if Cena would have beat RVD. They would have thrown garbage, they would have cursed, but they wouldn't have put John Cena's life in jeopardy. They wouldn't have trashed the Hammerstein. They wouldn't have done anything like that. They are rabid ECW fans. Who would have wanted a sports entertainer, John Cena, beat one of the greatest ECW wrestlers of all time? There would have been chaos, but it would not have been life-threatening. It would not have, no. ECW fans were very, very passionate, and they were not going to put a black stain on ECW by causing riots because John Cena defeated RVD. Plus, you got to remember, this is before, you know, the debacle with the ECW and the Zombie, God rest his soul, my former close friend, podcast, the hotline host buddy, co-host. You know, this was before a lot of the garbage, you know, Vince McMahon making himself champion and all this stuff. This was before all of that crap. So this was more about nostalgia. And here's something I'll add to it as well. A lot of people at the time were convinced, and we covered it too, that Paul Heyman was heavily involved in One Night Stand. So when he had the confrontation with Bischoff and the other stuff going on, we knew that Paul Heyman was involved with it. And if they really were there, WWE, to fuck Paul Heyman really bad, we always had the vibe that Paul Heyman would walk out. Because Paul Heyman didn't get along with creative in the early 2000s when he was doing a lot of the SmackDown stuff. So the fans would have definitely, you know, thrown garbage and got pissed off that John Cena won. But no, they would not have turned into an incident where police would have to get involved or anything like that. So, yeah, rest in peace to Timmy Austin. What a great guy. Seriously, what a great guy. Still can't believe that he died, that young man. Loved doing indie shows with him. He was such a good guy. I still have that memory. Oh, I can't really tell it on the shows, but should I say it? He's dead. Timmy, I love you. We did an indie show once. Some of you know who the female is. We did an indie show once in Long Island, VPW. And that's the infamous picture of me pinching his nipples. Whenever I posed with Timmy when he was the zombie, I would always pinch his nipples or do something to him to try to make him laugh as a zombie. We were in Knights of Columbus, and we went to a bar after. And there was a girl that slept with a lot of wrestlers. I never hit it. You know, me, I was too chubby. You know, I didn't have rats. I had, we'll just leave it at that. So one girl in particular that Timmy went with, she was at the bar also. So Timmy stood in zombie character and was doing the ECW zombie while we were all at the bar. So now you got these elderly people that frequent the Knights of Columbus, and they see this guy all dressed like a zombie, and he's drinking this and that. So this girl had a regular camera. And keep in mind, this is 2006, about 2006, around that era. So keep in mind, cameras are different now. It wasn't camera phones at the time. People still had digital cameras and regular cameras. So she had a camera on the bar. Now, keep in mind, Timmy had already fooled around with her in the past. So Timmy says, oh, I'm going to go to the bathroom. We didn't know at the time, but he went to the bathroom and he took a camera. And he went into the bathroom and they had like cups on the table, and he went into one of the stalls and he kept taking pictures of his penis in a glass and put the camera back on the bar. And then the next time we had an event, she walked right up to him. And before he could say a word, she went, slap, slapped him right in the face. And he's like, what'd I do? She's like, my camera? Because he was taking these goofy pictures, doing selfies, putting his pictures, penis in his glass, doing a zombie thing. And when she went home, she saw the pictures. So, yep. Just picture the ECW zombie pulling his pants down and taking pictures of his penis. So, Rams fan, DT, you could have had a shot with Francine after she did. What did she do to those hero subs? No, everybody ate the hero subs. What happened was, a guilty is charged. I brought lunch for everybody. And before they dug into it, Paul Heyman's like, no, let's use it as a prop. So Francine, if anybody ever watches ECW Guilty as Charged, you see Francine grab a 6-foot hero and she plays as if she's like it's a giant penis for a second. That's my dad's heroes. If you look closely, you actually see my dad's logo on the thing and everything. That was cool. And then the running joke is, I think it was Spike Dudley who threw up that day, and everybody said that I gave him food poisoning. So, yeah. So, yeah, she simulated doing that on the camera. It's on camera. He's guilty as charged 2000. So, all right, let's do like 3 more questions and let's jet for tonight. So thank you, as always, for everybody for joining me, whether it's live or on the archive. It is much appreciated. If you join us on Monday, Kevin and I, we're starting to already plan Monday shows. It should be a lot of fun. We'll see the advancement to King of the Ring tournament, Queen of the Ring. That's in 2 weeks, by the way. And it's happening on a Saturday. I don't remember exactly what time. It's probably in the morning. I might actually break schedule, and I may actually do a live recap of King and Queen of the Ring on that Saturday. I'm not sure yet. I got to see what the schedule is like over here. Interpretation, if I get up early enough, we'll see. But Jeff R., who is the biggest idiot in wrestling? Legitimate idiot in wrestling, right? See, the problem is there's some people who are not in wrestling who still try to portray like they are in wrestling. Like Ryback. I like Ryback. He's smart because he's making money off of intentionally trolling. Sometimes he trolls and he's trolling just to get money. But I don't know. He just rubs me the wrong way a little bit too much now. Teddy Hart's not even really in wrestling anymore. Listen, I got concerns. Teddy Hart will be we might hear some really, really bad news about Teddy. I don't mean death, but Teddy Hart, I wish he would grow up, man. I wish he would. And he still scares me a little bit. I'm still blown away that he was that upset at me that he talked about me in Sports Illustrated. When people told me about that article, I was like, what? I'm like, I do a hotline. I do a podcast. Like, how did I get this guy that upset that out of anybody he can name drop in wrestling, he name drops me? I'm like, I thought he deserved it though, but I don't think Teddy Hart's the biggest jerk in wrestling right now. I think the biggest jerk in wrestling right now, and I don't even want to say Tony Khan, because Tony Khan's just an immature kid. He's just, again, we're trying to find out if he actually went to a high school or if he was homeschooled. We have a few people that have accounts with classmates.com, and they're trying to figure out, they're doing it by process of elimination. They figured out what year he graduated from high school, and they're checking all of the yearbooks, and they're looking up Khan, because that's his real name. So they're looking up Khan to see what school he graduated from. As of right now, we cannot figure out what high school Tony Khan graduated from. So I personally think, if you ask me, I think you'll probably find Tony Khan in a freshman year or and I have a feeling I could be right on this, just a guess. I have a feeling we're going to find Tony Khan in a freshman or a sophomore year high school yearbook. And when he did that Steve Austin interview several years ago, and he said he wasn't that great of a student in high school because he focused on wrestling all day and he was on message boards and all that, I get this weird feeling that maybe they pulled him out of high school in junior or senior year and he was homeschooled. And that's how he graduated. That's why we can't find a senior high school yearbook with the name Anthony Khan or Tony Khan in it. You think I'm kidding? Go and check for yourself. You think we're the only people that ever tried doing that? It's public information. We can't find it. So I bet you his family pulled him out of school and he finished high school at home. I don't know who's the big... Low-key, to me, is almost out of wrestling. I don't think Low-key is as much of a jerk as he used to be. Who's a real jerk in wrestling right now? I'm trying... There's somebody right at the tip of my tongue, and I can't put my finger on it. 2 years ago, I would have said Hangman Page, just for, going into business on his own with CM Punk, especially what we know now. I don't think Jack Perry's the biggest jerk in wrestling. I think Jack Perry's kind of learned from what happened. I think he's trying to take chicken shit and turn it into chicken salad. You know what? I think the biggest jerks in wrestling are in right now? Some reporters. I think some of the reporters, some of the ones that throw out some really, really, awful shit and they get called out on it. Is there anybody that's really a jerk right now? I mean, John Laurinaitis is gone. Vince is gone. People will say Bruce Pritchard by default, but no, I don't think he's that much. Ronda Rousey. I'll give you Ronda Rousey. Even though she's not in wrestling anymore, I'd give you Ronda Rousey. I'll choose Ronda Rousey. I've been a fan of Ronda Rousey's. Supported the shit out of her. Very generous with signed photos, by the way. I still have a stack of autographed photos in my office that WWE sent me over the last bunch of years. And, quite a few from Ronda Rousey came. And very generous with sending photos. I still have them. Now they're probably not worth nothing. But, to me, to sell a book, she's turned into a complete asshole. Just a complete asshole. I would say Drew Gulak, based on what I'm hearing now. I don't know why nobody spoke up, even anonymously, during the last couple of years, but Drew Gulak apparently is a huge asshole. Byron is asking, who do I think Cody Rhodes' next opponent will be after Logan Paul? Well, Kevin and I nailed Logan Paul. I think that was pretty obvious. I think some of you did as well. Would not be surprised if it's Solo Sikoa. I wonder if we get Solo Sikoa. I think Solo Sikoa could very well end up getting a title shot with Cody. I think it would be pretty bizarre to hear the fans chanting all throughout the match, "We want Roman," while Cody is wrestling in that match. I'm going to go with Solo Sikoa. I think Solo Sikoa especially with what they did on SmackDown tonight. Solo Sikoa is impersonating Roman Reigns. Did you hear when they hugged? Did you hear the lines that Solo was saying? He was mimicking Roman Reigns. Solo Sikoa is, I think, going to be in line very, very soon to get a title shot. About the Sky Blue incident, we'll take one more question after this. I personally think it is not a big deal. You will once in a while get an asshole fan that will be a pig and whistle at the girls and, say, some terrible things. It's not accepted in today's society. The fans around the wrestling fan that's doing it, they're the ones that will embarrass the guy. But to turn around, and this is another reason why I don't like Twitter. I saw some people that were intentionally trolling saying, oh, Sky Blue wears fishnet. Sky Blue wears skimpy outfits. What do you expect the fan to say? Sky Blue should change her outfits. That angers me about today's society. Like, some women do like to wear sexy outfits. Some women do like to wear bikinis. Some women do like to wear negligees. Some women do like to show off their bodies. If you can't handle it and you have to voice, disgusting things you want to do to someone because they're wearing something like that, that outfit is not the problem. You are the problem. That's like saying you go to a modeling event and all the women walking down the runway are wearing like skimpy next to nothing. And you start saying some outrageous things and people come to the defense like, well, if you don't want to be called that, then don't wear that stuff. No, the incident was one drunk asshole fan. People made it a big deal on social media because they want their take on it to stand out. To me, it was just an asshole fan. You don't do anything different. It's an asshole fan. That's it. It's an asshole fan. Sky Blue did nothing wrong. And let me also say something else. There's also people out there that will get way too dramatic with this. Sky Blue was visibly shaken and she was very upset after. Oh, fuck you. Fuck you. Stop making it sound like, oh, she was so devastated by it that, that person could never go to a wrestling event again. No, if you're beautiful and you wear beautiful outfits, once in a while, you may have to deal with catcalls and people acting like assholes. You keep doing what you're doing and you ignore those assholes and the people around them will take care of business. Turn around and get emotionally devastated. No, you're the one that's assuming it because you're the one that got emotionally devastated by it. It was a drunk asshole fan that shouldn't have said what he said. That's it. Move on. Am I going to buy 2K24? Yeah, maybe. Maybe. I'm going to be upgrading a computer I have that I wanted to make an emulator machine with. But I also want to up the graphics card so I could play games from today. And if I do get the game, yeah, I'll definitely play it as Terry Funk. Shit. Somebody wants to create me as a wrestler. I'll play it. I'll play as me also. All right, two more questions and that's it. Kevin is asking, will we ever see a drug abuser gimmick or storyline in the next 20 years? Anything is possible. Anything is possible. I think you might have a better chance of that happening in AEW, but it may not be what you think. It could be someone who is dealing with problems and it turns into a storyline, but you're not going to see that in WWE. Dominic cheating on Rhea with Liv, they're not a couple. It was perceived by fans that they're a couple. Dominic got married. Rhea's with Buddy Matthews. On camera, then have you ever seen Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio make out on TV? It's not a cheating thing. If anything, it's Liv Morgan trying to turn Dominic away from Rhea as the faction. But no, it's not a boyfriend-girlfriend thing. All right, who's going to have the last question tonight? Who's going to have the last question for tonight? Let's make it good, because I want to finish at exactly 2 hours. We had a nice, fun show tonight. Thank everybody again for joining me. And have a nice weekend. Once again, happy Mother's Day to everyone out there. You know, whether your mother's here or they're up above looking down. You know, I know this is a hard day for a lot of you out there. And trust me, it's, even though I'm still lucky to have my mom here, it's still a hard day. Even if she wasn't in the hospital, because I find myself the last couple of years, ever since her heart surgery, saying to myself, is this the last Mother's Day I'm ever going to have with my mom? Like, what's going to happen a year from now? And that shit creeps into your head, and it gets really, really hard sometimes. Let's choose someone who hasn't asked a question. Maggie is asking, does Roman change his look when he comes back? I don't think he changes it that much. You know, his hair might be a little bit trimmed. He might even be a little bit smaller. He might be bigger. I mean, look at AJ Styles. He came back jacked. Roman, I think, will look similar. I mean, Roman didn't have a really unique look. You know what I mean? Like, he wore pretty much a regular outfit. His hair, you know, I don't think needs to be dramatically changed. I mean, Seth Rollins cut everything short, you know, because he's going to be off for a couple of months, but I don't think Roman's look will be all that much different. I think they're going to focus on, even though we kind of like walked into something on Monday, we said we don't want the Bloodline to turn into Bloodline red and black and the other one black and white, kind of like the NWO. And it was funny because people pointed out that Solo and his Rogue Bloodline are wearing red and black. And if you look at Roman and the Usos, many times they wear black and white. So we kind of walked into that one. But I think their look will be very similar of what they had before. If it's not broken, don't fix it. There's no need to change it. We'll see what happens. But with that said, I am out of here. I thank you all again for joining me tonight. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And again, I hope you could check us out on Monday night. Kevin and I will be live. And, you know, we'll have a fun show as always. Much love to everybody who tunes in. I hate saying it like this, but a big shout out to our international audience. It's a little bizarre to see that we're getting like much bigger following internationally. India, Thailand, Singapore, Italy is another one. I forget. Oh, Ireland. I think we're like in the top 10 right now, a top 15. It's pretty wild to see overseas. You know, I mean, last week we hit number 1 in 2 different countries, and you know that was pretty fucking cool. Especially, I remind everyone that there's some people out there that do a show every other day. So when you add up their stats and they're doing 5-10 shows, you look at What Culture, who puts up 32 shows a week. You know, it's based on number of downloads. So instead of having 1 or 2 shows, they put 30 clips up. And if you download all 30, you know, that's 30 downloads. That's why I give especially a lot of credit to Cornette. Whether you like him or not, that guy, as far as his shows go, 2 shows, each one has its own separate channel, 1 download a week. And consistently, they're in the top 5. So the fact that he does it busted open. If you look at their channel, they do 15 to 25 different episodes every week. So when you see them in the top 5 and the top 10, you need 25 different episodes to get up there. And last week, for a couple of countries, we did it in 1. So I'll catch you all next week, everyone. Be well. Much love.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's alright. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.